Hey guys, in this video I want to talk a little bit about the importance of learning to code as a biologist and how I am a total 100% newbie at any sort of programming or really computational thinking, and I wanted to share the importance of this and why I'm interested. So here we go. So I recently stumbled across this article about, as a biologist, if you continue in your studies and in your research, you're gonna have to learn to code at some point. And so this is quote is from an article in Wired from December 2017, and it says, not only is coding a core skill that gets the basic work of biology done, it's also taught them to look at problems in new ways. So as a biologist, coding is not only gonna help you analyze your research or solve problems, but it's gonna give you a better mindset for some of the things that you might be doing in research. So again, it's necessary to apply techniques to understand and organize information associated with biological processes and data on a large scale. And I think we should be doing more of this, and I think we should even be integrating it at the high school level, which is where I teach. As tools evolve to allow biologists to gather ever more massive quantities of data, we must find a way to make coding a core part of scientific education. And I think that is extremely necessary and true, and that again is from that same Wired article. So why? One, for data and statistical analysis. We just have lots of data and we need to be able to analyze it properly. You can also create software if you know how to code. You can make models if you know how to code, and you just can find new ways to solve problems that people haven't been able to do before. The long-term benefits of learning these types of skills include making you a better scientist, increasing your skill set, making you more marketable, and helping you break down barriers. If you already know the basics of some software before you get to the point where it's actually going to be the make or break point in your research, you may be ahead and you may not find as much struggle at certain points as other people. There's a lot out there, and it's hard to decide where to begin and where to start learning. I know I was overwhelmed. There are things out there that you can try. So R is recommended if you're really interested in learning more about statistical analysis. Python, if you're going to be like coding algorithms. Bash is another popular one for executing scripts, so turning text into commands. There's also SAS and MATLAB and Perl and lots of other things. It's really hard to know where to start. But I found another good article. It's an open source editorial that I'll post the link for this below. But there's no universal best language, Carrie and Papin say. Depending on what you need to do, you may need to learn another type of software or coding language. But it's not like you learn one, you learn them all. Every language has its own commands and its own quirks and its own things that you're going to have to learn. But once you get started in thinking computationally and practicing, you are going to get better at picking up other languages too. So it's good to get started as early as you can with a particular language that potentially be helpful for you down the road. Okay, so right now I'm going to show you how I basically walked through my very first Scratch experience and how I think this could apply to biology classes or younger students and teachers who might be interested in integrating coding into their curriculum. So you don't want to reinvent the wheel on this. There's lots of great resources out there, and I'm going to show you just what I learned in the basic week that I had to mess around with it in my free time. This is not like a biological coding tool that I'm going to show you. This is a tool developed by MIT. It's an open source coding software that kids can use to learn how to code. And I think there are ways, if you're creative enough, that you can integrate this into your curriculum, if you're a teacher or as a student, start to get some of a feel for computational thinking and how programming works. So let's get started with Scratch, and we're learning from Scratch here. Over here, we are at the Scratch base. I've signed up for an account. So if you go to scratch.mit.edu, this is how you can find it, and I'll post the link below. And now that we're on the screen, I want to introduce you to a few things, and then we're going to do one basic movement, and then I'm going to give a few challenges. Okay, so this is where our code will go. Over here are all the potential commands that we could use for simple activities. And this is our sprite, so this is like the character we can move around. And if we click on our sprite, we know that they have several different costumes, so we could toggle between different costumes if we wanted to like animate this or make it have movement later on. We can also change the sprite too, so if I wanted to choose a different sprite, I could search for example, like a dinosaur. This guy's kind of cool looking, and so now I have two. I can go to the option show and turn it off, or I can just totally get rid of him. So let's stick with the dinosaur. We're gonna make the dinosaur move. So what I want to do is go up first to events, and I'm going to say when the green flag is clicked, I want my dinosaur to move to the top of the screen. So when the green flag is clicked, that is my very first event, I want the dinosaur to move, let's just say, to a certain position. So let's have him go here. And I notice this is on an X and Y coordinate scale, so if I want him to be at the top, I know he's going to be at -44 and 95. So I'll adjust this and 95. All right, let's put him down here. And when the green flag is clicked, let's test this out. Oh, he moved, cool. Now I can have him also, let's delete that. I'm just gonna select it and have it go away. I can also have him glide to a specific position, so it'll be a little bit smoother. So when the green flag is pressed, I'm going to have him glide -44 to 95. Very nice. Can get rid of that. I can also just have him move, like let's make him move 30 steps. So when the green flag is clicked, oh, there he goes, 30 steps, great. Now I can do other things too. It doesn't have to be when the green flag is clicked. So let's pretend that I want him to start in the very center when the green flag is clicked. So we'll say go to 0, 0 when the green flag is clicked. I can add another event now. So let's say when the space bar is pressed, I want my dinosaur to move to a different spot. So let's say we'll glide him to a random position. So here we go. When the green flag is clicked, I'm going to go to the center. Let's try it. Perfect. And then when the space bar is pressed, he's going to glide 1 second to a random position. And there he goes. Cool. So I just made my dinosaur move. Now there's lots of other tutorials on what you can do, things you can manipulate, variables you can change. But right now I'm going to give you a few challenges that I am going to give some of my colleagues as well. So I created these challenges. They're pretty simple, easy activities. We have a level 1, a level 2, and a level 3. And as you work through these, you can have them build on each other. So level 1 challenge, try to figure out how to make the dinosaur jump. Level 2, dinosaur dance with the space bar. So press the space bar and make the dinosaur dance. Level 3 would be create a dinosaur chase game. And then you can earn points when you click on the dinosaur, all of which you're capable of doing in Scratch. So I created these challenges, I tried them for myself, and I gave my husband a chance to do it, and he's also a Scratch total newbie. I gave him 10 minutes to see if he could get through these, and he made it most of the way through level 2. So I'm going to show you the difference between my version and his version, and you guys can see that codes can differ to execute the same functions, and there's different ways of doing things, and some ways are more simple, some ways are more complicated, and there's no perfect way to do it, but as you get better at computational thinking and coding, you're going to find the simplest way and the simplest path to execute the functions that you want to execute, which is a really key important thing when you're talking to your students about computational thinking. Green flag to begin. Make the dinosaur jump. So I coded him to jump with the up arrow. So let's turn the volume up a little bit. All right, and then I also press the space bar to make the dino dance. So here we go. It's a little loud. All right, and then level 3, make a dinosaur chase game. So I said, when you click on the dinosaur, the chase game is going to begin. So here we go. Oh, and I made him say hey when he moves around. So. All right, so we won. Turn that off. Okay, so if I go to see inside, I can see all the code that I used to make this game. Up here is about his jumps. Down here is about his dance. And over here is about the game. So you can see not too many lines of code, but I achieved the goals that I wanted to. Now let's see the version my husband did. All right, here we go. So I'm just going to show you the code right away. You can see his code is much longer. He did some different things. We'll watch his dinosaur. Space key is pressed. Here we go. Yahoo! All right, so his dinosaur jumped way up. It's kind of like a crazier dinosaur, and he still was able to move. Just to show you a comparison, there's multiple ways to get some similar functions done, and this is a good activity you could do with your students too as you're introducing coding and computational thinking. So where's the biology in this? I want to go back and show you one thing that I started working on. It's not done yet, and again, I'm total Scratch noob, so I haven't really mastered this, or I haven't really figured out if this is the best way to get this done. And here's a cross I did with some bears. I wanted to create a game where I showed with Punnett square cross and then maybe build it up to different levels to make more complicated ones, and then maybe I could give it to my students and have them change some of the variables or some of the code, because Scratch is open source, you can access the code, and we could figure out potentially getting them to both do genetics and coding at the same time. So anyway, this is my goal. It is a total work in progress, so let's see how it runs. Who is my mate? Click on another bear. Would you like to see what our offspring would be like? Say yes to find out. Yes. Okay. So I had the sprites change costumes. What color fur will our offspring have? Well, if you guess brown, you're correct. Yay! And then score increases by 1, and we can continue playing this game. So I only coded this one level, and you can get through all your bears. I'm going to turn this off now. But let me show you some of what the code looks like. It's a little messier than my dinosaur game, but I'm still figuring it out for how I could better integrate coding into biology at a very simple, basic level for my 9th grade high school biologists. All right, thanks for listening, guys, and I hope you start to introduce computational thinking and coding into your curriculum too.